welcome in our brother Joe Davidson of the Sacramento Beat. Joe, we've been anxious to talk to you all week, man. There's so much going on between Sac State football and high school football coming to a conclusion. The great story you wrote on Grant this weekend, but I want to start with, and we've been asked about this a lot, the situation involving the young man Kiku Parker, who is at Grant. There's an issue with him leaving El Camino, and now we're in a situation, Joe, just in my opinion, we should never be at with a high school student.
Yeah, and Damien and Kenny, these are stories we dread doing, but you got to do them because it is topical, it is interesting. We have to be a news source to try to shed light on all that. But you dread doing them because there's no joy when high school athletics gets into hearings and maybe litigation, and there's lawyers involved and prepared statements, and this is high school sports. So Kiku Parker, just to refresh. Grew up in Del Paso Heights. That's the where Grant High School is located. That's the pride of that community for decades. His parents went to Grant High School. Grew up in Del Paso Heights. Kiku Parker was enrolled at El Camino, so it's because his parents wanted to challenge him academically, get him out of his comfort zone, and he thrived as a basketball player. He was a 3-year varsity player, set all kinds of career scoring marks for that program. He's a first-team Sacramento Bee All-Metro player. Saw him twice last season. Thought this guy's a player. He's a terrific player. He's a prospect. Good, nice young man. But he had a problem with his coach, Mamo Rafiq, who is known as a good coach, but he's also got a reputation of being a guy who could be a bit salty, if you will. And we detailed in the story where the player and the coach had a falling out to the point where the coach removed him from the team, according to the suit filed by by a lawyer who's representing the Parker family. He finished out his season at El Camino, and then he decided he wanted to leave. And normally that seemed like it's harmless, but what El Camino High School is alleging and what the CIF has backed is that Kiku Parker was recruited over to Grant to play there. The Grant coach, Denard Wilson, denies this, and he's had depositions and statement of facts on these things. And that's what was involved in this hearing this week, to figure out what's going on and is this punishment fair? Because what the CIF is alleging, if there's undue influence, pre-enrollment contact, and recruiting, then he's going to sit out the whole season. And it seems overboard. It seems harsh. I understand where the CIF is coming from. I know a lot of the people there over the years at the Sac Joaquin section office and the main CIF office. They want to enforce the rules, and they're big on no recruiting. We hear it all the time at Folsom football. Well, all their roster has been recruited. Not so. Their coaches are out recruiting it. Where's the evidence? There needs to be evidence. Apparently, the CIF has enough evidence to rule that he's ineligible. But they had a bit long hearing yesterday to go over it and sort through it, and we'll get an answer, I think, in fewer than 15 business days. So you add all the weekends into it. What is that? It feels like 3 weeks. I don't know anything that the CIF can't talk about it because it's kind of a legal matter now. Same with El Camino, though the people on Grant's side will talk about it. But my sense is I think he's going to win this case, and I think he should play. I agree with the whole idea of being hard on recruiting and undue influence. I think there's no room for it, but unless there's overwhelming evidence here, and if Grant is specifically saying that didn't happen, then he should be cleared. And at some point, I hope to see the evidence. I think some of it is on the section's transfer site, on what some of the allegations are. But the El Camino athletic director couldn't talk about it either. So it's unfortunate. And here's one thing I have to mention, guys, is how often do people transfer into Grant? They don't. They transfer out. And every once in a while, you get a kid who will transfer into Grant. JoJo McCray, their star quarterback who has Grant in the state finals, transferred into Grant before his junior year. But that's after Grant went 1-9. And then that quarterback went 0-9, and he stuck around. So sometimes people come not just for sports reasons. And Kiku Parker's parents wanted him to do, Grant's got a highly acclaimed sports medicine academy. So all the reasons seem fine while he's there, why he's there, but we'll find out. I think it'd be a major blow and a tough pill if he has to sit out his whole year. And I think it really just creates some animosity. A lot of people are just so frustrated with the CIF anyways, for where teams play and realignment and rules and all those kind of things.
Before I say what I want to say, I want to make sure I got all the facts straight, or at least the facts that I'm seeing straight. He was kicked off the team by the coach at El Camino.
That is what the family has alleged. There was witnesses who saw it. I didn't know about it at all last year. I mean, he did come back, but yes, apparently, and it's right there in the lawyer's statement. And he said he called it an increasingly toxic relationship that Kiku had with his basketball coach. Left the Parkers with no other option to transfer Kiku. And so, yes, so that's then he returned to the team. So, yeah, Kenny, that's reason enough for a kid to want to leave.
Right. And so what I would say is, if that is accurate, that's embarrassing by El Camino and the CIF. What is being recruited if you kick the guy out? He's not even part of your team. He's not part of your team. How is somebody doing illegal?
But he returned to his team, and I think what El Camino was alleging is that after he made it known, or it probably became pretty obvious that he wasn't going to return for his senior year, and so did area coaches, and in this dispute is that El Camino was saying that only black coaches from Monterey Trail, Burbank, and Grant recruited him, and they're saying no, we didn't recruit him. And I don't know how they're gonna, what kind of evidence they had. I wish I could have tapped into the hearing yesterday. It was kind of more of a inner house thing. I understand that, but yeah. And then there's with high school sports, if El Camino didn't block the transfer, if El Camino said you could go, we don't have a problem, then he'd be playing, because the Grant district approved the transfer. And so you'll see that sometimes where the previous coach doesn't want him there. Here's the thing, let him go. That's my thinking. Grant is not in the same league as El Camino, not in the same division. They're not going to play each other in a non-league game. They're not going to play each other in a playoff game. They're not going to play each other in a NorCal game. So there's no overlap. So I don't know why you don't just let him go.
This is spiteful and embarrassing.
I don't understand. Why is this even? Why are there even rules in place for this stuff? Like, this is Joe quit. Joe said, "The hell with this. I'm sick of this. I'm out of here." I think what I think Joe did. Joe just did the old Kenny Caraway. He was closing a screen and he took himself out. And now he's frantic. He's probably sweating a little bit, wondering what just happened. Just all right, Joe. We got you. Joe will go back to the link, and he'll be right back with us here in just a heartbeat. And just like that, Joe D is back with us.
I think I heard your question. Why are there rules in place? Sorry about that.
Like, why? We're talking about a kid here. We're talking about children, period. We're talking about CI. It's not like the kid snuck off from high school and was like, I don't want to go to this high school. I want to go to this one because I want to play basketball. Why are we doing this? Why are we treating it's bad enough that this stuff happens in collegiate sports? The fact that this stuff happens in high school sports, to me, is ridiculous. This man doesn't want to go to El Camino. This kid doesn't want to go to El Camino High School and he wants to go to Grant High School. Let the kid go to Grant High School and play basketball there. He's a child. What are we doing?
Yeah, I hear you. And I think, like I said earlier, guys, is the CIF is a governing body of high school sports. And, they are right to look into undue influence and illegal recruiting and things like that, because that's got to be snuffed out. Otherwise, we would have it would be such a major issue. It's a major problem in Southern California where kids come and go all the time. And but I think it also goes against the whole spirit of competition and just having a good experience. That's what the CIF really wants. And you're right, Damien and Kenny. If he wants to leave, if he doesn't want to be there anymore, then let him go. And if Grant High School is found to be recruiting, then sanction the program. But don't to sideline the kid. The parents, the father, also known, his name is Kiku as well. So this is Junior, who's at Grant. But Senior said that I worry about my son's mental health. These kids, this is what they have. This is a high school athlete. Man, that's everything to them, is to be on the football team, the basketball team, and they don't have it. That's why when the COVID shutdowns were happening, there are a lot of kids were in dire straits emotionally, spiritually. So I think, I'm just going to say my sense is I think he could win this case. I think the family has a big argument here. And when you're getting lawyers involved, and, it's, I think they could still find a way to, if they believe that he was recruited, or they believe that then maybe there's some sanctions, or if there's not enough evidence. But that would be a real disappointment if he's one of the storylines of the season anyways, even if there was no transfer issue, because he's a terrific player who has come full circle to his home neighborhood school to Grant.
The thing that also I'm not really clear on, and maybe you could help me out with, Joe, is the private schools are able to recruit. That's how, I don't know if that's the official terminology for it, but the Jesuits, the Capital Christians, they can go out there and do it regardless because they're private institutions.
But they can't just approach Kiku Parker after a game and say, come over to our school. They could recruit him coming into high school and say, hey, come take a look at our school. And all those things, but the CIF would. I see what you're saying. They don't. The private schools don't have the restrictions that a public school does, and so often in transfers you have to move in that area. You have to move physically in that area. He lives closer to Grant than he does El Camino, so that's where it could be a problem. And that's where a lot of times people lie about where their residency is. And the CIF used to have $1 million annual budget just to fight in litigation. I mean, that's just because of transfers, just on transfers alone. It's gotten easier. There's now rules in place. Normally you sit out 30 days if you're going to transfer. I think that's fair. Trying to dissuade people from bouncing around all the time, because in a perfect world, wouldn't it be great if everybody attended their home high school, the school right there in their neighborhood? That hasn't been the case for years. Right. And, but anyways, Kenny, I didn't mean to cut you off there. That's so there are rules against anybody doing it, but like we said earlier, people don't normally transfer into Grant, and he's not transferring to Grant to win championships. I think he wants a change of pace. He wants a different school. He doesn't want to work with a coach that he's had problems with.
Yeah. The other thing that I don't like about it, Joe, as well, is, and I know there's procedures for this or whatever, but it's working against the kid in this situation. The 15 business days to come with the determination, half the season is going to be over at that point.
It's going to be, and there's another guy too. There's a guy named Ben Rosenborough over at Monterey Trail in the Oak Grove Unified. And he started his high school career at Sacramento High School. And then he went to Prolific Prep, which is a national basketball academy of sorts in Napa. That's not CIF sanctioned. And now for the last several months, he's been at Monterey Trail, his home neighborhood school where his older sibling went to school. And that's all tied up. And he may have to sit out a whole year. He's only a junior, and he's a 4-star recruit, big time player. And it's, how did he get there? There's no allegations of recruiting, but it's his third school, even though the Prolific Prep School is not a CIF sanctioned school. So that takes forever. And he still hasn't been cleared. So meanwhile, these kids are kind of in a holding pattern. But you're right, 15 business days. But, Mr. Parker, the father, said we were encouraged. The Grant coach, Denard Wilson, said, I thought it went well. They didn't feel like it was doomsday. And I think it's good that the CIF has hearings and appeals and listens to people. Because otherwise they wouldn't, and these are rules that, I'm not defending the CIF. I'm trying to help explain, but the CIF, all these rules and regulations, these are things that the member schools voted on. This is how they want it governed. And if they want change, they have to implement that change. But there are a lot of schools that don't feel that, there's a transfer kid from here to there. Capital Christian's been an example. Is there enough empathy and understanding from the section office that sometimes there are hardships? I think what happens with a lot of the section commissioners throughout the CIF is they're so used to getting lied to or misled by, I don't think that's the Parker situation at all, but there's been so much of that over the years, and we hear so much innuendo and speculation. I've never seen any recruiting. I've never seen any proof of blatant recruiting that it grounds a team down, except for Franklin Stockton back in the 2000s when they were pipelining kids from the island of Samoa to play football. And they cracked down on them, put basically a death penalty on them, but then had an appeal. And I think they just grounded it from playoffs for like 5 years or something, which is better than putting them under the ground.
Well, Kiku, if you or your people are listening, man, we're rooting for you. And absolutely. I went to El Camino, and I don't have a lot of good things to say about that place, except I'm eternally grateful for Mr. Santillanes, and everything he taught me in that radio program. that was there. But that's where my good things about that school end. Let's stay with Grant though, Joe D, because Grant's got a big weekend.
Yeah, how
on the
about that?
football field, man. What a great story that's turned into.
And I got a story running tomorrow, and people get a kick out of this. We've had 9 state champions in high school football around here. The state tournament started in 2006, and I rank them in order. And who's their all-time number 1 team? Is it Folsom 2014? That's when 16-0 with 16 running clocks, or is it Grant with its first state championship team, the only public school to win a state open division? That was in 2008. So we have some fun with that. But in the story, I said this Grant team isn't the best Grant team in school history, but it's the most incredible team in school history. It's got to be the most remarkable sports turnaround in Sacramento, period. I know the Kings went, I think, 9 years before having a winning season. All right. And then they started winning. River Cats had like 3 straight losing seasons, then win the World Series or AAA championship a couple of years ago. FC Republic being an expansion team winning the USL. Those are all amazing. But certainly from a high school standpoint, you don't go 0-9, return everybody and the same coach and the same quarterback and wind up in the state championship. It's unbelievable. I think it's just remarkable that Grant has done that. Grant is a great story, and here they are. So they're going to play for the 3AA state championship against San Jacinto of Riverside. Both teams are averaging about 50 a game. It's going to be a driving rainstorm. Boo to that. But these kids would play in the parking lot for a chance to win a state championship, and Del Paso Heights will be there in full force. It's a tremendous community. Really supportive of its football players, but also will get on the coaches and the players right on the sidelines if they're underachieving. And I've seen that over the years, which kind of adds to the fun of it, if not the chaos of it. But more than anything, that's a really loyal community, and they'll be out there even if it's snowing.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before a couple of weeks ago, just how DPH, how Del Paso Heights loves Grant. They love Grant, and it's a rough area. It's a tough area with a lot of tough things going on. But there was always, and Joe, you would see this, there was always a sense of pride that community got from what that football team was able to do in the past. And it was tough to see them go down the way they did in recent years and in the past. So Joe D, he's working through it. But it's tough to see them go down a little bit, even to the point last year where they were 0-9. I just feel so good for them to get back to, the season that they had before all this, but now with an opportunity to get to a state championship or win a state championship, that's phenomenal, man.
Yeah, I mean, and growing up when our years in high school and even the immediate years following, they were a powerhouse. So the fact that they went through a down period is, I think for some people our age, that's
it's crazy.
That's unthinkable.
Right.
Like,
it's crazy.
Grant Union? No way.
Yeah.
So the fact that they are back playing for a state championship again, it's just a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
Just an absolutely incredible story. Hang in there, Joe. We all deal with these Wi-Fi issues, buddy. It's all right.
I am. I'm at my father-in-law's house, and then the power surged just right now, and I went, But no, you're right. If I'm not too late here, great community and love it, and I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool, and those are their heroes, and those are their guys, and Kiku Parker will probably be out there because he's he knows a lot of these kids growing up, and Shaq Thompson went to school there. He's been nominated by his teammates for NFL Man of the Year 3 years in a row. He's good, longtime friends with Eric Armstead. Shaq Thompson is a starting linebacker for his entire career with the Carolina Panthers. So he's given a lot of money back to Grant football, equipment, gear, motivational speaking, free camps and clinics. It's an awesome place. I don't like the perception that Grant gets that it's an unsafe school, and people have been on social media. One guy was a dope enough to suggest that the CIF ought to shut Grant down because it's not a safe school. Well, then don't go. I've been there for 30 years for games, and I've never felt unsafe. Now, is there hell and chaos just down the street and around the corner? Yeah. But nobody messes with the school and campus. Those kids are proud of their school and campus. And any of the shootings that have been anywhere near Grant are not Grant people. They're not Grant players. They're not Grant coaches. Not Grant parents. A lot of times they're people who have no connection to the school.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not doing it. I'm not biting into this Grant stuff because we know what that's all about. We've seen those tweets. We know what they're all about.
Because I would tell you, because I've seen it from experience. There are schools that are in very nice neighborhoods that aren't very safe. That aren't very safe.
Yeah.
But
it's safe for the people who are sending those tweets to Joe D.
Right.
Safe for them, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I was, I call it a nobody with a gun. Somebody who just wants to be somebody.
And to put that on the,
you see that exactly, and you see it in Fair Oaks. You could see it in up Highway 50. You could see it in Placer County. It's not a Grant problem; it's a society problem. But to pin it on Grant, and I mean, there were people saying, "Oh, the CIF shouldn't allow any playoff games there or state championship." No,
yeah, no doubt. Did the Grant team players did they have a text thread about what they were going to do to the white players when they played them? Come on, was that Grant?
No,
that's right.
Those are friends down in Sutter Creek, and there was an example a few years ago. There was a team in Northern California that was going to play a state championship at Crenshaw, in the heart of inner city LA, and the coaches said, got a hold of the state CIF and said, no, we don't want to go down there. We don't feel safe. That they should come up our way. And the CIF director said, you'll go down there or you'll forfeit. And I'm going to call Joe Davidson to the beat, and he's going to have all of it. And he told me about that. And I said, yeah, we would have reported on that. And then they started to complain that the showers weren't good enough in the field. Because how do you know? And he goes, well, that's usually the case for any city school. So Crenshaw hosted the game and won the game.
We'll get you out on this Joe. You've been great with your time, man. We kept you a really long time today. We appreciate it. We can't, I mean, Sac State just keeps rolling along. They gutted out a monster victory. I saw you sitting out there, Sarah Hodges, Kevin John, all going that extra mile for their media outlets. And I think it was you that posted the picture. There was a very good number of Sac State fans who were in attendance for that one. And I don't think they'll be facing the same elements Friday night, but they got another tough one coming up this weekend.
They sure do. No rain scheduled for Friday, and the Hornets pushed for a Friday game. They wanted to have incarnate word of San Antonio, Texas. They wanted that team to travel on a short week, and why not? It gets a primetime ESPN game, and but the Hornets are 12-0, slugged it out against Richmond Spiders, who we've heard of in the NCAA basketball tournament, and won that game. Had to win that game. Yeah. They would have been 0-3 in the FCS playoffs under Troy Taylor. It would have been a frustrating off season for that, but they won the game. And so now I think they could relax a little bit. I don't think they played tense. It's hard to play in the driving rain. Now they're taking on a kid, Lindsey Scott. And this is the beauty of college football. This is his fifth college over 7 years, and he's 24 years old. And how can that be? Well, there's a medical red shirt here, and he had a knee injury there, and then there was a no COVID season here.
Probably a COVID year in there, yeah.
A couple of them maybe. And then the bonus year back that you get from the NCAA, and he's 5'11", 215 pounds, and he is dynamite. He is like 4,000 passing yards, FCS records for passing, for 62 touchdowns in one season. So this simple: if the Hornets can't handle that guy, season over. If the Hornets can handle that guy, and the Hornets have played tougher schedule, then the Hornets will be 13-0, and they'll host an FCS semifinal next week, which is amazing. I think it's awesome. No rain coming up, so I think the stadium we had 9,300 last week. I think we could get it up to 22,000 and fill it up again. Fill it up, man. Let's go. Now, Grant on Saturday, rain.
Yeah.
But you know what? They'll go. They'll be ready.
Yeah. Jody, we'll let you rock, man. Again, thank you so much for battling the Wi-Fi and being good with your time, man. We love your work. We're excited for the next few days and to see what you put out there, man. Thank you as always.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Always.
All right. That's Joe Davidson right